weeks of Alabama football in, and we have returned to Monday on what is the hottest show on the streets, the number one forum for Crimson Tide football news, notes, and information. This being in my own words, with yours truly, Stephen Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine. Really excited to have everybody tuned in, locked and loaded onto the show on today. Got a lot to discuss, dive in, conversate on, and get more understanding about and discussing Crimson Tide football. As always, we're bringing this to you from Tuscaloosa, streaming this on YouTube. Speaking of the channel, go ahead right now, give a like, give a thumbs up, drop a like on the show, hit that subscribe button, and be sure to turn all of those notifications on so that way you can have the best news, notes, alerts, entertainment on your favorite program, that being the Crimson Tide. Now, not only are we streaming this to you through YouTube, but to all my Facebook people out there and my Twitter people out there, coming to you guys as well. So we're hitting you with the YouTube stream, the Facebook stream, and the Twitter stream, giving you all perspectives, all angles on your favorite Crimson Tide football program. It's always awesome to be joined each and every time by the man, the myth, the legend, the maestro in the production studio, John Ivory, doing his thing, laying down the beats, making this show go smoother with each given moment here. And we're going to have a chance to be joined live later in the show by the lead scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama Magazine, that being one Justin Smith, as he's breaking down recruiting for this month. It looks to be a potentially huge month in recruiting here for the Tide. And also, our own Justin Smith has spent extensive time with Malachi Moore, the freshman defensive back for the Crimson Tide coming in the 2020 class. And after the stellar show he put on over the weekend, we're going to get a chance to sit down with Justin and just talk about when did he know how good Malachi Moore would be, especially coming out of Hewitt-Trussville High School as a four-star prospect. But we want you, the Tide fans, being a part of the show. We want your phone calls, your tweets, your chats, your thoughts, your ideas, your energy. Bring it to us right here, 205-448-1358. The number to call in to let your voice be heard on the show, 205-448-1358. And one more time, 205-448-1358. Definitely want to hear from you as we get down to business here on tonight's show. And we start things off, with this right here. At this point, it is time for us to look. Mac Jones for Heisman. It's time right now. It's time to get the posters, the pens, the pencils, the airbrush t-shirts, whatever we gotta do. I mean, it is time for the University of Alabama, the football department, whether it's the social media department or the campaign department, whatever has to be done, it is time to get the Mac Jones for Heisman campaign started, because this young man is playing out of his mind at the quarterback position. Against Texas A&M, just went stupid nuts. 20 for 27 passing. That's 74.1% completion rating for 435 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, had the 1 interception, paced this Alabama team to 544 yards offensively, and the 52-24 rout of Texas A&M. Over the weekend, Mac Jones is playing big-time football. Through 2 games now, Jones, 38 for 51 passing. That's 75%, a little over 75% right there. You don't see NFL quarterbacks getting paid. NFL quarterbacks completing passes at that type of clip. 684 passing yards, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. Against Texas A&M, Jones is 4th all time for passing yards in a single game in Alabama football history. And Mac Jones is the lone quarterback, the only quarterback. Tua didn't do it. Jalen Hurts didn't do it. A.J. McCarron didn't do it. Greg McElroy didn't do it. Coker didn't do it. Blake Sims didn't do it. Mac 10, Mac Drip, Mac Sauce is the only quarterback in the history of Alabama football with 3 career touchdown passes of 85 yards or more. Mac Jones, only one doing it. And what's crazy is the entire offseason, the entire spring and summer, all we heard, he can't do it. He's not good enough. He's not a championship caliber quarterback. Oh, he can win you some games. Mac Jones can win you some games, but he's not going to win you a championship. He's not Tua. No way is he Tua Tagovailoa. Mac Jones? That's not Tua. We've heard that all off season. It was pounded on social media all off season. He's not Tua. He's not Tua. Will never be Tua. Not good enough. Not good enough. Can't win a national championship. You cannot win with Mac Jones. He can get you a couple of wins and games, but when it comes down to taking this team and putting it to a national championship, Mac can't do it. And all Mac has done is drop bombs on people. All Mac has done, sling touchdown passes. All Mac has done is shatter everybody's expectation that was negative in terms of him trying to put this team in an opportunity to win, a national championship. Mac Jones has literally shattered the expectations of all the doubters, and he's right there, and he's right now going, oh, don't stop doubting me now. Don't stop throwing shade now. Don't stop being negative now. Keep doing it. Keep doing it, because it has really fueled the fire, of this young man, and he's coming out here playing extreme, just exquisite football. For head coach Nick Saban, he's talked about it. Mac is playing with poise. He's playing with confidence. He's playing with leadership. He's playing within himself, and he's making big time plays all over the football field. You got wide receivers talking about. You got wide receivers saying, we knew this would come from Mac. We never doubted him. We knew he could do this. We look at Mac Jones the same way we look at Tua Tagovailoa. It was destined to happen for Mac Jones. We knew this was going to happen. The entire summer, I was telling people, Mac Jones, keep your eye on Mac Jones. This guy's cooking. This guy's coming. This guy's playing the whole offseason. Oh, Stephen Smith ain't no analyst. Stephen Smith ain't no for real Bama insider. Stephen Smith don't know what the Sam Hill he talking about. And the whole time, I'm out there seeing this with my own 2 eyes. Mac Jones cooking. Mac Jones playing. Mac Jones doing grown man things out there on the football field. And is winning football games and is doing it, having fun, passing the football. And, the biggest thing was always, Tua Tagovailoa was putting up points. In the games that Mac Jones has started in, people, going back to last year, against Arkansas, Mac Jones put up 48 as a starter. Against Auburn, Mac Jones put up 45. Against Texas A&M, Mac Jones put up 45 in that game. I know the team had 52, but offensively, Mac Jones put up 45. He's answered that question. He can put up points. Then folks go, well, Steven, Tua's got the chemistry with all of the receivers. And Mac Jones does too, sweetheart. Look at Mac. Mac's got the chemistry with Devontae Smith. He's got the chemistry with Jalen Waddle. Oh, and let's not forget, Mac Jones has got John Mechie to pop. Mac Jones got Jonathan Mechie to pop against Texas A&M. The Jones to Mechie connection, oh, that was as sweeter than the other side of the pillow. 5 catches. $181 for John Mechie, 2 touchdowns, a career day. The A-Day connection from 2019 is alive and well. And Mac Jones even threw some sugar to Devontae Smith. Smitty had a touchdown pass in the game, 6 catches for 63 yards. For Jalen Waddle, Mac Jones delivered him a new career high in receiving yards. Waddle, 5 catches for 142 yards. And 1 touchdown. So the same type of chemistry that Tua Tagovailoa had with the wide receivers, Mac Jones, that same type of chemistry, if not more. I'm telling you, people, you've got former players out here. Mac Wilson talking about Mac Jones for Heisman right now. Get it going right now. He proving doubters wrong right now. He's slinging that ball like folks slinging the crack out the jump house right now. Mac Jones is playing real football. And then you got, Ronnie Harrison talking about, hey, y'all, Mac Jones, he letting it rip, he letting it pop, he letting it fire. And then you even got Blake Sims, of whom the most underrated quarterback of the Nick Saban era in terms of the deep ball. Blake Sims is coming out here going, man, that Mac Jones deep ball is looking better than mine right now. So you got former players out here seeing what Mac Jones is doing on the football field. And interestingly enough, 2 days before Alabama took on Missouri to start its college football season, I spoke with 3 of Jones's personal quarterback coaches in the state of Florida. I got a chance to speak with Coach Dickinson, Coach Darren Slack, and Coach Denny Thompson. I spoke with all 3 guys. Coach Dickinson was the one that identified Mac as a child in having a ton of talent. Coach Slack spoke with him. Coach Denny Thomas, who worked with Mac in the offseason despite the coronavirus. All 3 guys in unison talked about, we don't see where the doubt's coming from. We don't see where the criticism's coming from. We don't see where the naysay, where all the haters are coming from. I mean, this is a guy in Mac Jones that can have a Joe Burrow type season. All 3 of them said it. This is a guy in Mac Jones who can have a Joe Burrow type season. Now, Joe Burrow has already had the big year. He's already done the big thing. But all 3 coaches in unison talked about Mac can do some of the same things that Joe Burrow can do. And should he put it all together, which he's doing it thus far, everybody is going to remember the name Mac Jones when it's all said and done. And so far, the brother is snapping on the field right now. I mean, when I spoke with Coach Thompson, what he had talked to me about was Mac has always been a natural, gifted thrower of the football. He's always been an accurate quarterback. He's always been able to throw the football since childhood. But the one thing they have worked with, that Thompson worked with him on, is just being more explosive with it, establishing a firm base and being able to throw while having that base, using the ground to generate more force, more juice, more torque on the football. That's all that they have worked with him on. He's always had the tools, just being able to refine those tools. And Mac Jones playing really, really, really extremely well right now, at the quarterback position. I mean, all the doubt, all the naysay, all the criticism has done nothing but fuel this young man. And while people are talking about Kyle Trask of Florida for the Heisman Trophy along with other players, and those guys are good players, it's time to really seriously put Mac Jones for Heisman in the conversation right now. I mean, the only thing that Alabama is missing at this point offensively is the run game. That's it. And it's not all on the running backs. The offensive line for Alabama, this is a Joe Moore Award group from left to right. When you look at Alex Leatherwood, Deontay Brown, Landon Dickerson, Emil Ekiyor Jr., and Evan Neal, they just have to do a firm job of creating opportunities consistently for these backs to make plays. I mean, week 1, Najee Harris, 98 yards rushing, 17 carries, 3 touchdowns, had over 100 yards from scrimmage, 106 to be exact. Against Texas A&M, though, he only had 43 yards rushing. He did have, a couple of touchdowns, but for this offensive line, got to be able to consistently create the holes, the lanes, the opportunities for these backs to have success. And then going back to Steve Sarkisian, I talked about this over the summer. It was going to be a difficult balancing act for Sark, because as much as we want balance, U.S. fans, I myself, in the media, in the Alabama program as a whole, you have so many talented guys that want the football and just want football to go around. And though there are differences between Steve Sarkisian and Lane Kiffin, of whom Alabama will face this week as the Tide takes on Ole Miss, the one thing that both guys share is if there's an opportunity to exploit an opposing defense through the passing game, both guys are going to take their shots in doing so. And we saw Sarkisian the last 2 weeks take his shots in doing just that. So the run game's going to come together. The run game's going to come in. Just has to come down to the offensive line really hitting its holes and creating those opportunities for the backs in general. But going back to Mac Jones, put him in the Heisman. Put him right there. Mac Jones, it's time for him to get in this Heisman conversation and for people to start putting some respect on the name Mac Jones. We go to our first break here on the show. Don't touch that dial. Just getting you started here on a Monday. Upon our return, we entertain your phone calls, your thoughts, your texts, your tweets, your ideas, your super chats. It's time to bring them in after this.
Every sports fan deserves the proper representation. Whitwell Sports introduces to you the Title Towel. Wave that Title Towel in the air like you just don't care in support of Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Only $9.99 and it lasts a lifetime. Head on over to whitwellsports.com and get your Title Towel today.
Remember the taste of Grandma's delicious sweets? Emily's Heirloom Pound Cakes brings back those precious memories with just one bite. Each cake made from scratch. They make the perfect dessert to share with family and friends for any occasion, and ordering is easy. Visit Emily'sHeirloomPoundCakes.com. Click the online store and shop. Then pick up your fresh cake at the kitchen in downtown Homewood. Order yours online at Emily'sHeirloomPoundCakes.com. Emily's Heirloom Pound Cakes, making memories from scratch.
We are back in from the break on the hottest show on the streets, the number one ticket for Alabama football news. In my own words, yours truly, Stephen Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine. And before we get to the phone lines to take care of your phone calls, your thoughts, your ideas on top football, got a super chat to shout out here right now, and it goes to James Singer. James Singer donating that $20 via the super chats for TDA. Appreciate the love they're being shown by one James Singer, a new donator here to the TDA family. But it's on you now, Tide Nation. 205-448-1358. The number to call in to let your voice be heard on the show. 205-448-1358. And we take our first call of the evening. You are live on In My Own Words. What's going on?
Hey, Stephen. How you doing?
Man, I am doing fantastic, man. Proud of this offense. Mac Jones flying colors right now. So, Bama out the gate 2-0, man.
Hey, how good is Malachi Moore and Will Anderson?
Malachi Moore and Will Anderson have both been
looking like George Teague and
they have both been studs so far. They have both been studs. I know Will Anderson had the big first game against Missouri, but he did some things against A&M that were still really, really solid. And then Malachi Moore against A&M, getting that pick and getting the ball out belt at the end. This young man, just a natural defensive back, loves to learn, loves to get better, loves to improve. And Coach Saban said some very, very, very great things about Malachi after the game.
Yeah. Stephen, I'm not sold on Pete Golding.
I'll say this.
I don't know what I'm looking out there. Missed assignments, and ask LSU how important defensive coordinators are.
I'll say this on Golding. When you look at Alabama right now, and I'm going to talk about this later in the show, 4 botched plays have become the difference in between Alabama giving up 21.5 points a game as it's given up now versus giving up 9.5 points a game as it could be given up. 4 botched plays. Now for Golding, yeah, so Golding has to get the play calls out there, but once the plays reach the field, it's got to be a effort on the players consistently to communicate with each other pre-snap, during the snap, and post-snap read. So effective communication, effective execution, and then just pure tackling. If they can clean up those 2 to 3 aspects, Alabama's defense will be fine. But I definitely appreciate the call, man. Keep listening to us.
Hey, I'm behind you. Let's send the Joker to New York.
Hey, absolutely. But I appreciate the call, man. Absolutely.
All right, love your show, Stephen. Thank you, bye.
No problem. We're going to swing this over now for Senator Hines. Senator, my man, how you feeling on a Monday?
Man, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling fresh. we done came off a great win against Texas A&M. And, man, Steven, I saw your post-game reaction, your immediate post-game reaction, and you were spot on, man. Our defense does need to tighten up a little bit on that inside run game. But other than that, man, we saw so much growth in that second half of last week's game against Texas A&M. It's like every week, every quarter, we see something getting better with our team, with our defense especially. One thing I did want to touch on, I didn't see a lot of people talking about it. Yeah, hold on. I did see, Steven, with our defense, I mean, our offense is – hold on, I'm sorry. Can you hear me, Steven? I'm sorry.
I can hear you.
Yeah, man. So one thing I did want to say is I'm liking Najee's running better than B-Rob right now. The offensive line is getting a decent push, and I didn't expect us to dominate. A&M does have a good front 4 or 5 man rotation. I didn't expect us to dominate, but I did expect us to wear on them and open it up in the second half. And Najee is dancing too much for me, man. There was a couple holes. I kept going back and watching just the first, 5 to 7 carries he got, and he's toe tapping a lot again, like he did early in that sophomore campaign. I mean that junior campaign last year before he settled down and started hitting the holes. I wanted to see what your analysis was on basically our run game as a whole.
I would like to see the offensive line open up a bit more opportunities, absolutely, but I did see a couple of those moments where Najee was kind of dancing a little bit. Brian Robinson actually had a better game than Najee, particularly in the second half. B-Rob, 10 carries for 60 yards. He had one run where he just carried the entire power with him, so I do see that. But defensively, I mean, last season, the team was having trouble getting lined up. They're getting lined up a whole lot better now. I just feel like there's just certain things in terms of communication between the inside linebackers and guys in the secondary that if Alabama can get that part, just that part cleaned up, this defense will be a really solid, strong defense. But, Senator, man, we appreciate the call. Keep listening to us.
You already know, Steve. Roll Tide. Shout out to the Super Chat people, man. Blue Wrench Gang in the house. Much love, y'all. Roll Tide.
Absolutely. We continue with the calls here on a Monday. You're live on In My Own Words. What's going on?
Steve, it's Justin Riley from the Sportscast. What's going on?
Justin, what's happening with you?
Man, coming off a great win. I have to echo what you're pushing here. I do believe that Mac 10, needs to start being in the conversation for the Heisman. He is playing at an incredibly high level. And, yes, he does have some amazing receivers. I do give him that. But, man, look at that ball placement. Look at the way he's slinging
is it pretty or what?
Man, it's the most beautiful thing I've seen in a while. And we've seen some good throws from Tua. We've seen some good throws from some other guys. But, man, when Mac 10 puts a spin on that ball, man, very few can compete with that. I'm just going to say that right now.
I mean, he looks good out there throwing the football, but just getting back to the people that are kind of concerned with the Alabama defense, especially in another year with Pete Golding, there has been some improvements there. I go back to last year, Alabama was having trouble just simply lining up. They're getting lined up. Pete Golding is getting the calls out there. It's just between the inside linebackers and the defensive secondary, there's got to be that little bit more constant communication. For example, who takes the back out the backfield? Whoever's supposed to take the back, communicate that out. In pre-snap read, during the snap, post-snap, make sure if you got the back or if you got the tight end, say that so that everybody knows and everybody can be on the same page. So just the reassurance of communication and being able to effectively finish plays and tackling, if Alabama handles those two things, the defense is going to be just fine. But, Justin, we appreciate the call, man. Keep listening to us.
Man, always, man. Roll Tide.
Appreciate Justin Riley throwing that call in there. We continue with the calls here on a Monday. You're live on In My Own Words. What's going on?
Hey, this is Warren down here in South Carolina. How you doing, Stephen?
Doing good, Warren. Can't complain. Hearing yourself.
Hey, look, man. I just want to say that you're always on fire, man. You're always on fire. Appreciate that. You bring it to the table every time when you talk about the Tide. Great game Saturday. Man, I'm on edge over here in South Carolina. It's like I wish they could play Clemson today, right? Just today, just to shut the people's mouths down here. Mac, I think people forget about Mac Jones, how good he really is. You remember the LSU game?
Absolutely.
What did we lose the LSU game by? Was it 3 points?
The LSU game, Bama lost by 5.
5 points. Five points. Mac Jones was leading it. Look, I would hate to see Alabama after they had a preseason to get ready. They're going to jive, no problem in the back end on the defense. Defense is looking good. Najee is going to eventually get his. We're throwing the ball stinking real good. Real good. Let's keep doing it. Let's keep winning.
Absolutely. And Warren, I think people forget at times when Mac came in 2017 as a freshman, he was perfecting that deep ball then. Because I remember he was out there running scout team, and he was throwing bombs to Tyrell Shavers, of which Shavers is now at Mississippi State. And Nick Saban kept telling Mac, stop throwing the ball to him so much. And then I see this skinny, gangling-looking kid look at Nick Saban and say, Coach, you want me to stop? Tell your defense to come at me and stop me. And I'm looking like, who is this dude with all of this mouth coming at Nick Saban? And lo and behold, it was Mac Jones. So right then and there, I saw right then and there that this young man had all the potential in the world to do what he's doing.
You know, that's a great point. I think people forget that Nick Saban really is a master when you talk about quarterback selection. He's also a master of getting into the kids' heads and then teaching them how to win. Alabama is a great program, will always be a great program. And I tell you, this year is going to be a ride that everybody's going to remember. Mac Jones for the Heisman. Stephen, hey, you keep it on fire, brother. I appreciate you, and roll Tide.
Appreciate the love there coming from Warren out of South Carolina. Great call right there from him. We continue with the calls on a Monday. You guys lighting us up so far. You're live on In My Own Words. What's going on?
Hey, man, I just want to say, Grace, I always want to say how underrated Mac Jones is and how underrated everybody is making him the past few weeks. And what a great win to knock off Texas A&M by 28, 4 touchdowns.
You're right. You are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. I mean, people are underselling Mac, and Mac is proving them wrong, and it was really good to see Alabama take care of A&M by 28 points. We appreciate that call. You keep listening to us, okay?
All right.
Appreciate that call coming in there. Alabama did take care of A&M by 28 points. And Mac Jones, put some respect on my man's name right now. We continue with the call lines right here. You're live on In My Own Words. What's going on?
Hey, Mr. Steven, this is Robert from Mobile.
What's going on, man? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Again, another Alabama victory. Mac Jones' Heisman conversation comes down to one game very soon. If he lays a smackdown on Georgia the way he's laid down on everybody else, then the Heisman conversation becomes very real and hyper for him. But with you saying that right there, what would be the stat line? What would be the stat line that Mac Jones has to put up in that game to lock the Heisman up for him?
Not necessarily lock it up, but where he can't be, where it becomes more than just talk. He becomes a Heisman contender in that game. And similar to the A&M game, but not so much 435 yards. But, a good 300 plus. And if he airs out the way he's been airing into Waddle and Devontae and I can forget about the third guy.
Mechie.
Mechie. I got to start remembering that name. And he airs it out like that. It looks as good. Because no one doubts that Georgia has a legit defense, a top 10, elite defense right now.
even if we don't think necessarily Alabama has one. No one doubts about Georgia. He does that to Georgia. Then ESPN and the rest of the analysts out there will put him up we'll put him in the Heisman conversation. And if he does this to the end of the season, he will win the Heisman. He won't just win the conversation; he'll win it. That's the kind of schedule he has and the games he has in front of him. Again, Georgia will put him in a conversation where nobody can ignore him. And if he runs the table with the same kind of productivity, he wins it. Because Trevor Lawrence, his schedule just has nothing on it that compares to Mac Jones or Alabama's schedule. So he'll have the games and he'll have the opportunity. Again, defense. Once again, we have to hope. Alabama's offense is elite. No one questions that. We have an elite offense. What we hope is that we have a good enough defense. We've had an elite offense for the last 3 seasons with Tua, but the defense just wasn't good enough. We're used to having a good enough offense and an elite defense, and we won championship with that. This season, we're going to have once again, we got an elite offense. Do we finally have a good enough defense? If they fix some of these holes, maybe. We don't need an elite 1, 2, 3 defense like we normally have. But if our defense get in the top 10, then this offense can carry it, which is unusual for Alabama. But yeah, Mac Jones will be in Georgia, put him in the conversation, and if he runs the table and keeps up this elite play, he'll win it. And hopefully, but I'm hoping not. But we're kind of hoping he doesn't, because hopefully Najee and the run game will pick up to where it takes some of it off of Mac Jones. So that makes it so it's kind of best he doesn't have help for the Heisman, and we're still winning because Najee and the running game is carrying some of the load. What do you think?
Good points. All good points. And, Steve Sarkisian's trying to get the run game going, and we will see how the defense continues to take those steps forward. But we appreciate the call, man. You keep listening to us.
All right, man.
Appreciate the call right there. You guys lighting us up here on the show. We got a couple of super chats right now to shout out, so we'll get to those right now. We got Gucci Todd. How about Gucci Todd donating that $10 via the super chats, helping us out here at TDA. And Kevin Compton, the other member of the glorious Blue Wrench Gang, that $4.99 via the super chats coming from Kevin Compton. Before we take the next break here, quick thing here on the topic. Congratulations to Mac Jones and Malachi Moore. Both guys represent the University of Alabama football program as SEC Players of the Week for their performance against Texas A&M. Mac Jones, SEC Offensive Player of the Week. Malachi Moore, SEC Freshman of the Week. Kudos to both guys for what they did, their efforts, their performance in the victory over the Aggies on last week. We take a break right now on the show. Don't touch that dial. When we get back, we sit down with the lead scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama Magazine, one Justin Smith. You'll hear Justin right after this.
If you want delicious home-style cooking, sushi, and hibachi, check out Otoro Hibachi in the University Mall in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. At home and you can't get away from the TV because the Crimson Tide is about to score? Don't worry. Delivery is also available through Waitr and Crimson2go. That's Otoro Hibachi in the University Mall in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And make sure you let them know the good folks at Touchdown Alabama sent you. Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $7.95 per month, or pay $74.95 for a full year subscription. That's a yearly saving of $20. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
All right, people, we are rocking and rolling from the break on a Monday. Number one forum for Crimson Tide football news, in my own words, with yours truly, Stephen Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine. Be sure to give a thumbs up. Be sure to drop a like on the show. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on all of those notifications so that way you can have the hookup on the best news, notes, analysis, and entertainment on your Crimson Tide. As of right now, we hop on over to the In My Own Words hotline where we pick up the best in the business on the recruiting trail. I'm telling you, people, if you are not following Justin Justin Smith on all forms of social media. I do not know if you love Alabama recruiting. So this is a guy that's at every recruit's house, scouting, recruiting the best of these athletes. Justin Smith on the phone lines right now. Justin, how you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good, Steven.
Fantastic, man. Happy we got you here right now. So, Justin, first things first, the news has come out. The five-star defensive back target for the Crimson Tide for 2021, that being one JaQuincy Kool-Aid McKinstry out of Pinson Valley High School, will make his commitment on October 25th. Based on everything people have been telling you, Justin, around McKinstry's camp, where is he leaning right now? Is he a lock at this point for the Crimson Tide? I know he's got Alabama, Auburn, and LSU as his three schools. Where is McKinstry right now?
Well, McKinstry, when it comes to his recruitment, he has kept kind of a tight lip about which school he is leaning towards. If you ask him about any of the schools listed in his top three, he would constantly say everyone is on the same level. But I think there are plenty of reasons to believe the Crimson Tide is in a great position with McKinstry. When you look at his relationship with the Tide current starting defensive back in Malachi Moore, Moore has a great relationship with McKinstry, looks at McKinstry as a little brother in certain factors. And when you look at the way Malachi Moore played on this weekend, if you are McKinstry, you are looking at that. When I got a chance to talk with him recently when Alabama announced that they were going to start Malachi in their secondary, he did tell me that he was going to look at the Tide more, knowing that they were going to start a true freshman in the secondary. You also have to look at something that is not even pertaining to the Tide's football recruiting efforts. When you look at the Crimson Tide pulling in a five-star point guard on this weekend last Saturday, they got a commitment from J.D. Davidson,
Good
one of
point.
the top players in the country in the 2021 recruiting class, and he has a great relationship with McKinstry. If you guys pay attention to Twitter, he sent out a shout out to McKinstry when he announced his commitment. When he announced his commitment date, you heard J.D. Davidson on Twitter saying to Alabama fans to show McKinstry some love. So that is something to consider. You also have to consider the way the other two teams listed in his top three have opened the season. Look at the Tide; they are currently 2-0. Look at Auburn; they suffered a huge loss to Georgia on last weekend. Of course, LSU lost to Mississippi State in week 1. So there are plenty of reasons to believe the Tide is in a great position with McKinstry. As always, you cannot count out Auburn because of the relationships he has with that coaching staff, the relationship he has with the football team and their starting quarterback, Bo Nix. But I think the Tide and the Tigers, the Auburn Tigers, are the two favorites at this moment. Of course, recruiting is very fluent. Things can change at any time. But I think the Tide and the Auburn Tigers are in a great position with McKinstry.
So when you look at just this month of October right here, Justin, could this be a huge month for the Crimson Tide in terms of bringing in, more commitments on the trail? How critical or how big potentially can this month be?
This month has a lot of potential to be big for the Tide. When you look at the last couple of months, things have kind of quieted down for the Tide on the recruiting trail, but now you look at the month of October, you see McKinstry has a commitment date. You see Sam McCall, one of the Tide's top targets in the 2022 recruiting class, locking in a commitment date for October 28th. You also see two other guys who have had their commitment date set for October for quite some time. When you look at Emeritus Mims, the five-star offensive lineman out of Georgia, who the Tide is listed in his top school list at this moment. You also look at Christian Zachary, a guy who's rated as a 3-star defensive end on most recruiting sites, but I feel he definitely is a 4-star talent. The Tide coaching staff seems to really like this kid. He told me that they have been in constant contact with them as of late, even with this commitment coming up on October 15th. I think the interesting part of the Tide recruiting Zachary at the defensive end position is the other defensive end targets they still have on the board. If it's October 15th and the Tide still has targets like Shemar Turner, Thomas Shadillier, and JT Tuamawala out of the West Coast, if the Tide still has those guys on the board, do they take Christian Zachary's commitment? That remains to be seen, but they still are pushing hard for him at this moment. So it could be a huge month for the Tide with the slate of guys who are set to announce their commitments in October. And as I said earlier, recruitment is fluent. A lot of more guys could come out and say they want to announce their commitment in October, especially with the NCAA extending their recruiting dead period through January 1st. Guys know that they cannot take any visits, especially guys who want to sign during the early signing period in order to enroll early in the school of their choice.
If you're just tuning into the show right now, ladies and gentlemen, on a Monday, we got the lead scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama magazine on the line right now, Justin Smith, talking about JaQuincy McKinstry, the 5-star defensive back target that is high on Alabama. Alabama is also high on him, set to make his commitment on October 25th. Also, other guys that could be making commitments this month. But now, Justin, we go to Malachi Moore. And this is somebody that you spent an extensive amount of time with in the 2020 recruiting cycle. You were around him a lot. You were around his family. You attended quite a few of his games and his practices during his senior year at Hewitt-Trussville High School. And against Texas A&M, the young man put on a show. 6 tackles, 2 pass breakups to lead the team, an interception, SEC Freshman of the Week. But what did you see from his senior year of high school, or what stood out to you from his play that had you believe that he's got this type of potential about himself, or were you shocked to see how well he's played thus far?
I wouldn't say I am shocked. I think he's a kid that works hard. I think he works hard to get whatever he definitely wants. And when I first got a chance to see Malachi Moore a little bit earlier in his high school career, it was very evident that he was very physical, not afraid to tackle guys who really embraced making big hits. That was very evident when I first got a chance to see him. But when I got an opportunity to see him during the senior season is when I felt he made that big jump to possibly make an immediate impact at the next level, because he played cornerback up until that season. He made the transformation from cornerback to safety to be more involved in that Hewitt-Trussville defense. And when I saw him on that first game against JaQuincy McKinstry in Pinson Valley, which is a coincidence, but Malachi Moore looked very confident as a safety. He was telling guys where to go. You could really see that high IQ shine at that safety position during his senior season at Hewitt-Trussville High School. It's also a kid, when you look at Malachi Moore, as I said on your show in the past, he is battle-tested. This kid has gone up against some of the top wide receiver talent in the country at the high school football level. He went when he was at Hewitt-Trussville High School, he played in one of the toughest high school football regions in the country. When you look at that 7A Region 3 classification in the state of Alabama, but he was also tested with guys like George Pickens, who is currently a starting wide receiver for Georgia. He went up against Jaden Hazelwood, who is one of the starting wide receivers for Oklahoma at the moment. So he is battle-tested, a kid with a high IQ. I really saw that shine during his senior season at Hewitt-Trussville High School.
Now, when I was watching the game, Justin, and after the game, there were a lot of fans on Twitter conversating about, could this be the next Minkah Fitzpatrick? And when you say names like that, you got to be sure and very sure that that guy lives up to that type of potential because of how special Minkah was. But seeing how Malachi does play at that nickel slot corner role, the most important role in an Alabama Nick Saban coach defense, primarily in the secondary, do you see some similarities between Malachi and Minkah? And if you do, what's kind of the one area that Malachi has to grow in to probably get as close to what Minkah was?
Well, I think his high IQ, the IQ that Malachi Moore possesses at the moment, is very similar to Minkah Fitzpatrick during his freshman year in Tuscaloosa. Also, the physicality, not afraid to come downhill to help in the run game. Great coverage as well. So he has those similarities to Minkah at the moment. I think Malachi needs to grow when it comes to blitzing the quarterback. I think Pete Golding sent him on a couple of blitzes a couple of times against Texas A&M, but he did not get home. If you guys can remember, when Minkah Fitzpatrick was sent on a blitz, he got home or got pressure on the quarterback in some type of way most of those times. I think if Malachi Moore can grow in that position, because at Hewitt-Trussville High School, he wasn't called on to come downhill and blitz the quarterback on any play. So I think he needs to grow there a little bit more. But he has a lot of potential. He already is not afraid to come downhill to help in the run support, that great pass coverage and the high IQ, showing shades of Minkah Fitzpatrick. But if he can improve on being a blitzer on some plays and just continuing to grow. I think he's more physically put together at this moment than Minka was during his freshman year, but there are some similarities. But of course, Malachi wants to grow to possibly be better or even on the level of Minka Fitzpatrick.
And then, Justin, when you look at Terrion Arnold here, you actually went down to see him play, the young man, 4-star defensive back target for 2021 out of Tallahassee, Florida. What impressed you about Arnold's game, his play on the field, and where is he kind of leaning right now?
Well, I think he's just similar to McKinstry. I think the Tide is still in a good position with them, possibly, if I can judge, with McKinstry kind of battling between Auburn, LSU, and Alabama. I think the Tide is in a better position with Terrion Arnold, who currently has a top 11 at the moment. He is going to chop that down to a top 5 really soon. He wants to play with Xavier Sorey, a 4-star athlete who currently plays for IMG Academy, who really likes the Tide. The Tide is in an excellent position with them. I'm pretty sure he tells Arnold that, because both of those guys want to play together at the next level. He also talked about possibly announcing his commitment date on National Signing Day, or possibly during the All-American Bowl, which is the All-American game that he is currently committed to. So a commitment date looks as if it's a long way off for Arnold at the moment. But the Tide coaching staff are not cooling off on this guy in any form or fashion, because Nick Saban actually texted him before his game on Friday, and he was very impressive in that game on Friday night, showed off his ability to take a punt return back to the house, showing off his all-around athleticism, being a part of special teams. He actually said he likes being on special teams because it is an important part of the game. And I really like his coverage skills. I think he is an above-average guy in coverage, especially at the high school football level, possibly the top player in the country in the secondary when you look at his form and the technique that he has being a defensive back within the secondary. So if the Tide can get him, it will be a great pickup. I think they are in a great position. They are still pushing for him. I think there's still a lot of time left in his recruitment with Florida, Georgia, and he said Auburn is also picking up their contact as of late. But be sure to check out our interview with Arnold over at touchdownalabama.com.
Absolutely. He is Justin Smith, ladies and gentlemen, the lead scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama magazine. Join us via the phone lines to talk all things recruiting for 2021, and one Malachi Moore, of whom he spent a lot of time with on the 2020 recruiting trail. Moore having a great freshman season thus far for the Crimson Tide. Justin, you be safe, you be good. Catch you next time, my man.
Thank you, Stephen.
As always enjoy having Justin Smith on the show, breaking down recruiting. If you haven't done so already, go to our YouTube channel, Touchdown Alabama Magazine on YouTube. Justin Smith, before all of the attention has been going on with Malachi Moore, he had a day in the life with Moore at Hewitt-Trussville High School, spent a whole day with Malachi on the football field, with his family at different events. Justin did a fantastic job capturing that video. Our own John Ivory did the film production for that video. So check out A Day in the Life with Malachi Moore on Touchdown Alabama Magazine's YouTube channel to get the inside scoop of the action that Justin Smith and our own John Ivory got there with one Malachi Moore. But we take another break here on the show. Upon our return, we return to your phone calls, your tweets, your chats, your ideas, your thoughts on Alabama football after this.
T-Town Menswear in the University Mall in Tuscaloosa. Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $7.95 per month, or pay $74.95 for a full year subscription. That's a yearly saving of $20. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
We're back in from the break, people, on the number one forum for Crimson Tide football news, in my own words, with yours truly, Stephen Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine, rocking and rolling, kicking it with you here on a Monday, starting your work week off correctly. Crimson Tide 2-0 on the year will take on those Mississippi Rebels, and head coach Lane Kiffin this week at Vaught-Hemingway Stadium, Oxford, Mississippi. Very excited for that matchup, but we are back on you, Tide Nation. 205-448-1358. The number to call in to let your voice be heard on the show, 205-448-1358. And one more time, 205-448-1358. Definitely want to hear from you, your thoughts, your ideas, your passion, your excitement, even if you want to vent about something. Your vents allowed right here. This is a safe space. Got tongue-tied. This is a safe space here on In My Own Words, 205-448-1358. But as you're getting your thoughts together right now, got a super chat to shout out. Mr. Gary Major. Gary Major donating that $10 via the super chats to TDA, helping us out here on the show. Appreciate the love there coming from one Gary Major. But as you guys getting your thoughts in right now, another topic, the SEC front office in Birmingham has made this announcement official, the Alabama-Georgia game. Now, Alabama is not overlooking Ole Miss by any sense of the imagination. It is locked and loaded, locked and centered on Lane Kiffin taking on the Rebels at Oxford, Mississippi, Vaught-Hemingway Stadium. But the SEC front office did take the liberty to go on ahead and announce the Alabama-Georgia game, which is set for Saturday, October 17th, inside Bryant-Denny Stadium here in Tuscaloosa. 7 o'clock Central Time p.m. kickoff. CBS will have the call. So once again, the tandem of Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson will have the call for Alabama, Georgia. Now, with this being said, cue the LED lighting feature, folks. The LED lights will be on display at Bryant-Denny. This will be a night game here for Alabama and Georgia. So cue the LED lights, cue the fun. I wonder, John, I wonder about this, John. Can Alabama have a situation where before the game, as the players are walking down the Walk of Champions, can they have a little smoke sesh, a little smoke coming out of the tunnel there for Bryant-Denny as the guys are walking through the Walk of Champions? If Alabama can have a little smoke factor going on prior to the game, that'll be a good investment there for the Tide to look into. But before we continue with that topic, we take a call right now on the show. You're live on In My Own Words. What's going on? What's up, Ken? What's happening with you?
Everything going good, man. I called, in the offseason, me and you talked about Pete Golden, and you said how you had all your faith in him. After 2 games, Steven, I don't know, Steven. I don't know.
Okay, so I'm going to put it to you like this. After 2 games, so Alabama's giving up 21.5 points per game, 21.5. So, but that's off really 4 blown botched plays, 2 against Missouri and then 2 against Texas A&M. If you don't have 4 botched plays, Alabama is easily giving up just 9.5 points per game in both games combined. Now, I know Pete Golding has to get the right call on the field. That's his job. But once the call hits the field, then it becomes on the players, especially the inside linebackers in the secondary. They got to have that constant communication with each other pre-snap, during the snap, and post-snap read, because there is no way in the world to where against Missouri you lose the running back out the backfield for a touchdown, and against Texas A&M and against Texas A&M, you lose the running back out the backfield twice for 2 touchdowns, and it's Dylan Moses and one of the DBs looking like who did what for and why. That goes back to you got to constantly talk to your teammates. Hey, if you got the back out the backfield, brother, pimp juice, let me know. If there's a check, if there's a motion going on, it's check right. You got him? You better have him, son. You got him? Okay. So it goes back to everybody on that field, Kenneth, it's got to be constant communication across the field. And then after you communicate, then you execute that play accordingly. If the players on the field get this done, then this defense is going to do its thing. It's just getting the last little bit of, if you got the guy, let me know you got the guy, and we can roll.
But shouldn't that be on Pete Golden and his preparation of the players?
I'm pretty sure Golding is preparing the players. It's going back to the secondary. You got a lot of guys in this defensive back five that have never started in games before. First and foremost, Daniel Wright as a safety. This is his first year actually starting. There's a difference in, playing games, but you're actually the starter. It's on you to make those calls on the back end. Same thing for Josh Jobe. He's played in games before, but this is his first time actually starting for Alabama in that secondary. So it's literally, those guys in that back five understanding in the fact that if I got the running back or if I got the tight end, let everybody know kind of what's going on.
And like this week coming up against Ole Miss, I think this is really going to be a test on Pete Golden and our secondary, because Lane is going to do things that's going to cause our defense, to maybe get confused at certain times. So I think this game right here is the tee up before Georgia.
Another thing, though, and I'm going to mention this here in the final segment, is for this group being able to not just hit, but actually tackle. And that's the other thing right there. Yeah. Not just hit, but actually finish up the play. But, Kenneth, as always, man, we appreciate the call, man. Appreciate it.
All right, now, y'all have a good day. Roll Tide.
Absolutely. We take another call right now. You are live on In My Own Words. What's going on?
Hey, Steven, how are you?
I'm doing okay. Doing pretty good. And yourself?
Not bad. Roll Tide the win on Saturday, but I'm a little bit upset about the same old issues with Pete Golden and our defense, and I need somebody to kind of talk me off the ledge on this one, because I'm about ready to be done with him. I don't know about you, Steven, but I'm about ready to be done with it. So we're having the same old stuff, defense miscues and whatever miscommunications and everything. I mean, y'all told me that with Dylan Moses back that we were trying to get things situated with that, but I'm still seeing the same old stuff.
Okay. As much as everybody wants Charlie Strong right now, and a lot of people do, if Nick Saban puts this in the hands of Charlie Strong right now, Charlie Strong can kiss the $2.5 million buyout he's getting from South Florida goodbye. Because that's what South Florida is paying him right now, $2.5 million in a buyout to not have, a high-profile job right now. So Charlie Strong's getting between $20,000 and $60,000 as an analyst, for Alabama. So if you want Charlie Strong to be the DC, he gonna have to kiss that money goodbye. He got to come off that buyout, because South Florida ain't gonna pay him if he didn't take a highly profile job here with the Crimson Tide. Now, getting back to Pete Golding, There has been some improvements here on the defense. Last year, I saw a defense that couldn't line up to save their life. This season around, you're seeing the defense line up. They're getting the calls in. They're lining up. It's just some small mental things to clean up there on the back end, especially in the secondary. When you talk about there are guys on this back five that have never started before. Josh Jobe has never started before. Daniel Wright has never started before. Malachi Moore, he's looking good, absolutely. This is his first time ever starting. Jordan Battle, he played in some games last year, all 13 of them, but now he's starting, and then growing in a leadership role also. also. So there's a difference between, last year having 4 to 5 guys that were all experienced on the back end versus this year. There's some small tweaks there. And as much as we sit there and give heat to Pete Golding, this is still the overarching thing. This is still Nick Saban's defense. Even when you had the likes of Kirby Smart here and Jeremy Pruitt here, and they had their issues too, at the end of the day, this is still Nick Saban's defense. He is the overarching CEO of this defense. So he knows what needs to be fixed. He knows what has to get done, and he will take care of those things this week in practice.
Well, Stephen, I hear you about the new guys in the secondary, but 2015, I want to say we had Eddie Jackson was playing safety. This was his first time. Lincoln Fitzpatrick was a true freshman. Marlon Humphrey was his first time starting. I mean, some of the excuses I just can't really get. I mean, we got to get this thing under control because Georgia's coming in. They're coming with some fire. And I don't know about how they look on offense, but their defense is pretty solid. And we're going to have to make some stops. We're going to have to get off the field. And these miscommunications, I just can't take them no more.
With also, this is the same 2015 team, dude, that lost to Ole Miss and gave up points. And I know that there were flukish plays, but this is the same 2015 team that lost to Ole Miss. This is the same 2015 team that darn near lost to Tennessee, and it took Derrick Henry to get a touchdown at the end. So, I mean, it's not perfect. They're trying to get to where it needs to be. It's not where it needs to be at, but Nick Saban's going to get to where it needs to be at, and it's this week in practice where those guys are going to get that done. It's not perfect. Nick Saban is working on it, but as always, I appreciate the call.
All right. Well, thank you. No time.
Absolutely. I mean, I know people are concerned with the defense. I hear you. But once we get to this next segment right here, I will explain everything going on and why you don't need to jump off the ledge when it comes to this defense. We take our final break here on the show. When we get back, I will dive into more of the 2 things that are the issues with Alabama's defense and how it will get everything cleaned up right after this.
If you're an avid Alabama Crimson Tide fan and you love to flaunt it, then show your Alabama Crimson Tide support by grabbing the All-Bama sneakers. They feature bold Crimson Tide graphics, so no one will be able to question where your allegiance lies. When you add these sweet sneakers to your Alabama Crimson Tide collection, go to stsfootwear.com and use the code TDAlabama for $15 off your purchase. That's code TDAlabama for $15 off your purchase. Go to stsfootwear.com and get your All-Bama sneakers today. Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $7.95 per month, or pay $74.95 for a full year subscription. That's a yearly saving of $20. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
We're back in from the break here, folks, on the number 1 forum for Crimson Tide football news, in my own words, with yours truly, Stephen Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine. And before we get into the final topic of conversation, got to remind you of TDAwear.com. That is TDAwear.com. Now, you are a diehard Crimson Tide fan. You enjoy this program. This is your program. Got to get you to do your shopping right here at TDAwear.com. We have everything for you right here, whether it's T-shirts, whether it's hoodies, whatever the apparel you want. Let us be your plug for your Alabama football shopping. We got the We Want Football shirts, the Let Them Play shirts, the I Love Hearing Touchdown Alabama shirts, all things encompassing, Alabama football. We got you prepared and covered right here, Touchdown Alabama Magazine, TDAwear.com. But getting into now this defense, everybody's been talking about the defense all day. Okay, talk about the defense all day. Talk about Pete Golding all day. So the 2 things, it's not a whole list of things that Alabama's got to improve on. It's 2 things. But 2 things it's got to improve on. Number 1, it's the consistent communication and execution on plays, and that's just, a combination right there. But number 2, finishing plays in terms of tackles. And right now, here we go, right now. So Alabama's given up 21.5 points per game, right? 21.5 points per game. It gave up 19 against Missouri. It gave up 24 against Texas A&M. 4 blown plays are the reason for this. 4 blown plays. You go back to Missouri, Tyler Beatty, the running back, escapes out the backfield for a 54-yard touchdown. And then the quarterback, Connor Bazelak, scores on a 7-yard touchdown run. You negate both of those 2 plays from the conversation. Alabama gave up 6 points. The final score is 38-6. When you look at Texas A&M, 2 plays here. Anaya Smith, comes out the backfield, with the catch, scores a touchdown. And then Smith again, was matched up on Dylan Moses. Dylan got kind of hung out the dry right there. Touchdown catch made in the end zone. You remove both of those plays, the final score is 52-13? 52-13. So Alabama goes from giving up, 21.5 points per game to 9.5 points per game, if not for 2 blown plays, not for 2 blown calls, 2 blown, coverage busts there on the field. So not a whole lot of issues here with Alabama, just cleaning up some small things, communication there was on the role of the inside linebackers in the secondary and being able to finish tackles. We have Alabama has guys on the team that love to hit, but not just hit, being able to finish up, wrap up, and make the tackle, that thing as well. And Alabama's practicing the tackling drill every day in practice. Nick Saban lines the DBs up. He lines the corners and safeties up. He has them go through the tackling drill. They just got to finish the play in terms of tackling and wrapping these guys up. Now, here's the big thing. And people are not going to want to hear this, but it's the cold, hard truth. This is no longer your daddy, granddaddy, great-granddaddy Alabama defense. I'm sorry. This is no longer your papa, grandpapa, great-grandpapa Alabama defense. In today's college football, everything has shifted to the offensive side of the ball. Everything has shifted. Quarterbacks and receivers nowadays coming out of high school, they are way more knowledgeable, way more instructed in these high schools and in these competitions more now than ever before. And then you look at these coaches and offensive coordinators that are way more offensively minded, innovative, analytic than ever before. I mean, back then, the reason why the Alabama defenses were so dominant back then in the Paul Bear Bryant era, in the Gene Stallings era, in the early eras of Nick Saban, here's why. The offenses they played against were predictable. The personnel groupings were predictable. You had wishbone, you had I formation, you had single back, you had tight end, double tight end sets. The personnel groupings were predictable, and you can pretty much call off the rip which play was going to be ran. I remember in the earlier years of Nick Saban, as fans, you guys and I myself in the media, we pretty much knew exactly what was going to happen. It was going to be dive to Mark Ingram, toss sweep to Ingram or Richardson, counter with Richardson or Ingram, or put the back in the wildcat and run. We pretty much knew off the rip which play was going to be called. And when that was happening, a lot of U.S. fans were like, this is boring, this sucks, can we spice it up, can we jive it up, can we lighten it up, can we get some type of creativity here? That's what y'all were saying about the offense that was predictable at the time. So since then, we have seen a complete evolution of the offense where you have guys coming out in shotgun, you've got plays to where you don't know what's going to be called. You may think it's a run, boom, there's a pass being called. And nowadays, you've got, quarterbacks not even taking the ball from center anymore. It's shotgun, simpler reads, simpler throws, simpler packages, simpler formations. Football has become so much of a speed and space game. It is speed and space now in college football. You have so many of these innovative, analytical offensive minds that are even now in the NFL. So the NFL has taken a lot of these fast-paced college football tendencies and brought to their game. So now, with everything going on and with the new rules in place, everything fits the offense of football now. Everything fits the offense now to where The most inferior, minute, insignificant teams have ways to move and matriculate the ball downfield. Now, does that mean that defenses can't shut out teams anymore? Doesn't mean that, but it means it's just going to be that much more harder to create the shutouts, that much more difficult to create the shutouts, because everything has transitioned to the offensive side of the ball versus years past and in recent history where the offenses were predictable and the defenses were able to pick up and pick out on things a whole lot more. Nowadays, what constitutes as a shutout defense is if you're giving up 10 to 17 points a game. You're giving up 10 to 17 points a game. That's the new shutout in today's college football. You give up 10 to 17 points per game, people are going to say, well, that's a dominant defense. Well, that's an elite defense. Well, it's hard to move the ball on that defense because teams are now scoring 40 and 50 and 60 points at will now. An above average defense is now one that's giving up between 17 and 20 points a game, and a solid, decent defense is one that's giving up between maybe 20 to 23 points a game, and then after that, then it's just plain bad. So right now, Alabama is in that vicinity of above average and solid, right there in that vicinity. It has all the capabilities to be a strong, solid, concrete defense. Just some things that need to be cleaned up, some small, minute things that need to clean up, and Nick Saban is working on that this week in practice. Another thing, people go back to all the old school defenses. People go back to that 2016 defense all the time. Well, that 2016 defense was so good. Well, that 2016 defense was so dominant. And it was, but it wasn't perfect. That was the same 2016 defense that gave up 43 points to Ole Miss and Chad Kelly. That was the same 2016 defense that gave up 30 points to Arkansas. That was the same 2016 defense that all it needed was 1 3 and out against Deshaun Watson and Clemson to win a national championship. And that 2016 defense that had Daron Payne, Dalvin Tomlinson, Jonathan Allen, Tim Williams, Ryan Anderson, Minka Fitzpatrick, Tony Brown, that 2016 defense could not get 1 3 and out against Deshaun Watson and Clemson. So even with how good that defense was, it wasn't perfect. It had its flaws also. This 2020 defense, all it's got to do, clean up the communication, right? Clean up have the effective play as it's got the communication worked out, and just make tackles. Wrap up and make tackles. It wraps up and make tackles, negates those tackles for loss against negate those yards after catch against Ole Miss. Alabama is going to be fine people out here. But as always, you want the best in news, notes, information, and coverage here on your Crimson Tide. You can find it by accessing the Touchdown Alabama Magazine app. You can download this app from the iPhone App Store if you're rocking Team Apple, Google Play Store if you've got the Android phone. For your audio listening needs, we got you covered here on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, Overcast.fm, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio. We got you covered here. If the good and gracious Lord sees fit, I'll be back on Wednesday, continuing the conversation that is Tide football. As always, Bama Nation, you can purchase individual copies of Touchdown Alabama Magazine. Have those sent to your door. Link will be found in the description. 2 final super chats for the road here. Kevin Compton, $4.99 via the super chats. Appreciate that love there from Kevin Compton. And Senator Hines, that $9.99 from his end. Senator Hines, appreciate the love there from both members of the Blue Wrench Gang. But as always, husbands love your wives. Wives appreciate, value those husbands. Children, school is in, but continue doing those things legitimately now to not be bored. Get you those 3 hearty meals a day, those 3 great laughs a day. Protect yourself, protect the loved ones around you. Until next time, folks, spit in my own words.